good. Coming up soon, in 1 week, Gora Purnima. I was looking through some of my notes. Somebody did some really thorough research. NASA, National American, Aeronautics and Space Administration, verified that on the specific date, I forget the times, 8 p.m. to 11:30 p.m., there's record of a lunar eclipse on the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya. Verified. At least it's verified that there was an eclipse. Full lunar eclipse on that particular day. So he appeared on the Purnima on a very special occasion. You know the occasion? Because people in Navadvip at that time were not, the Brahmanas were not conducting Vaishnava-like life. They are interested in karmakanda rituals and demigod worship and so forth. And so they weren't engaged in chanting Vishnu's name. But on the occasion of the lunar eclipse, they half immersed themselves in water up to the waist and chanted loudly Vishnu's name. Loudly Vishnu's name. And he appeared. I was in Mayapur, 1975, I think it was. And it wasn't Gaur Purnima Day, but it was close to Gaur Purnima Day. And there was a full lunar eclipse. And it was wild. I'll just describe it, the wildness of it. Many of you have been to Mayapur, so you know, like, the number of people that are around, the villagers around Mayapur. Well, there must have been, it was more like a football game or something. Only the whole length of the Ganges. People came from outer space or something, because there's so many people. And I was thinking, wow, this is really dangerous, because you know how crowds are. They don't respect one another. Everybody was pushing everybody to get into the Ganges. I thought people were going to drown. So I know what I did. I got in quickly and offered prayers and got out quickly and headed back for the temple. But it's exactly what happened in Mayapur that year was exactly a replica of what happened when Lord Chaitanya appeared. Loud chanting. People getting in the Ganges up to their waist, chanting the holy name loudly. So that was the occasion of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. And I thought as a nice topic to discuss this evening in anticipation of Gaur Purnima is Nimai Pandit's 2 initiations. The screen you can see? Yes. Yes? Okay, good. Yes, no? What's showing? Okay. No, that's not what to do. No?
Yes.
Nimai Pandit's 2 initiations. So we're going to do a little bit of background on his mantra guru or Diksha guru, Ishvarapuri. Ishvarapuri was a recipient of the mercy of Madhavendra Puri. And we're going to hear something about Madhavendra Puri and how that was passed on, but his gift was passed on to Ishvarapuri and on to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was born in Kumarahata, not far from Mayapur. And later, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the birthplace of his Diksha Guru, Ishvarapuri, and he scooped up some dust and put it in a cloth, and in course of time would eat a little and eat a little, eat a little. Because he did that, the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that, and they did it so much, it made a lake, made a big hole in the Kumarahata, so then they filled it up and made a doba. So it's a celebrated part of Kumarahata is the doba, or the lake, man-made, in Kumarahata. So we hear a little bit about his relationship and his association with Madhavendra Puri. We know much more about Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri was a Paramahansa sannyasi. Paramahansa sannyasi means Kuchichak Bahudak Paramahansa. He was at the third stage of sannyas formally, and his practice was Paramahansa follows the Paribrajakacharya. Paribrajakacharya is he would travel and travel and travel, and for his maintenance he would accept alms. Madhavendra Puri's practice was he wouldn't go and perform madhukari. He would, if people approached him, he would accept. If nobody approached him, he would fast. Now in modern times somebody would die, but he was very accustomed to fasting for days and then accepting. So one time, as he was traveling to holy places, as sannyasis will do, he was visiting Vrindavan. And while visiting Vrindavan, he was very near to Govindakund. And those of you who have been to Vrindavan and you know where Govindakund is, there's a very large tree, and it's really easy to imagine. As the day was ending, Madhavendra Puri is sitting underneath that large tree, just chanting as we see, and absorbed in thought of Krishna. Lo and behold, a young cowherd boy came and offered him a pot of milk. Said, "You've been fasting here. Please accept this pot of milk." And Madhavendra Puri said, "How did you know I was fasting?" And the little boy said, he didn't answer the question. He just said, "In our village, it is the practice that no one goes hungry. So the ladies at the time of milking of the cows, they sent me to you to give this pot of milk. So please accept. And I'll come back later and collect the pot." So he was very happy. As a Paramahansa sannyasi, someone came and brought him some milk. So he accepted. And as he was drinking the milk, something happened. His whole body became filled with ecstasy. And he began to contemplate, wait a minute, this wasn't just a little village boy, this was Krishna. And so he slowly finished the pot of milk, and the description goes, as the evening set, he continued chanting and chanting, and as he dozed in the evening hours, that same cowherd boy came to him in his dream. You know the story. The cowherd boy said, "I am Gopal. I'm the one that brought you this pot of milk. And I've been waiting. I've just been waiting for you to come, because in my deity form that's been put in the brush out of fear for protection when invading armies, I've not been worshipped for a long time, and I want you to worship me. Here's where my deity form is. In the morning, get some villagers and go find me and begin my worship." And when he woke up, because he's a Paramahansa sannyasi. Nobody knew him, but he had that position, that stature. And so they, sure enough, they went with him and chopped in their way and found the deity. Now, today, when you go to Govardhan Hill, all the brush is gone because people chop trees and brush, and it looks different than at that time. And so there's this lengthy description of how he began the worship of Gopal on the side of Govardhan Hill. And for days and days and days and days and days, etc., etc., etc. And some time passed. I'm not going to narrate the whole life of Madhavendra Puri, but his it's important because we're going to see shortly an image of Advaita Acharya, because Advaita Acharya received mantra Diksha from Madhavendra Puri. His deity Gopal, after being worshipped for some time, again appeared in his dream and said, "Summer's coming and it gets really hot. Can you arrange for some sandalwood paste and camphor when it gets really hot in Vrindavan in the summer?" So immediately he arranged for the deity worship to continue nicely, and off he went. For some reason, he went to Puri. There must have been a reason besides Krishna's plan. There must have been, like, that's a good place to get sandalwood and camphor, I guess, because that's where he was going. But on the way, so those of you who know your geography, to go to Vrindavan to Puri, you don't go through Navadvip, you don't go to Shantipur, but he did. Then down to Puri. And many things happened, but in the course of his travel to Puri, many things happened. And one of the things happened was he met Advaita Acharya. They had ecstatic times together. Advaita Acharya accepted mantra Diksha. So the reason for mentioning this is that Ishvarapuri and Advaita Acharya were godbrothers, initiated by the same guru. In the later part of Madhavendra Puri's life, this is taken directly from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It said about him that Sri Madhavendra Puri is a desire tree of devotional service, and it is in him that the seed of devotional service first fructified. The seed of devotional service meaning, prior to him, prior to Madhavendra Puri, the particular seed of the mood of love in separation from Krishna, as the residents of Vrindavan feel love in separation from Krishna, was not prevalent. He was in Madhvacharya's line. In Madhvacharya, that's not so prominent. In fact, it just didn't exist prior to Madhavendra Puri. But in the concluding years of Madhavendra Puri's life, he manifested this seed, which it was in a private circumstance. He was just going deeply and more deeply and more deeply into the mood of love and separation, like the mood of the gopis. So here's that celebrated verse. We can say it together. Aidina Dayadranatha he Mathuranatha Kadavalokyase Hridayam Twadaloka Kataram Dayata Brahmyati Kim Karomyaham. And again and again and again he would say and taste the meaning. Here's the translation given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Oh, my Lord, O most merciful Master, or Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? So, O most beloved one hints at the mood of the gopis. So all the residents of Vrindavan were feeling separation, but this teaching, the practice, the cultivation of love in separation from Krishna in the mood of the gopis was the seed that he manifested that later became a tree. So in this connection, it's said, the seed of devotional service next fructified in the form of Sri Ishvarapuri. And then the gardener himself, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, became the main trunk of the tree of devotional service. So Madhavendra Puri is really important in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's line, and Ishvarapuri likewise, because Ishvarapuri received this mood of love, and he received the mercy, the full mercy of Madhavendra Puri. That's a lot of mercy. The full mercy of Madhavendra Puri. As he became older and older and older, he lived to quite at a senior age. He was practically immobile. And Ishvarapuri was very happy to be in his service. And here's what Antilila Chaitanya Charitamrita has to say. At the last stage of his life, Sri Madhavendra Puri became an invalid and was completely unable to move. And Ishvarapuri so completely engaged himself in his service that he personally cleaned up his stool and urine, always chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and reminding Sri Madhavendra Puri about the pastimes of Lord Krishna. In the last stage of his life, Ishvarapuri gave the best service among his disciples. Thus, Madhavendra Puri, being very pleased with him, blessed him, saying, "My dear boy, I can only pray to Krishna that he will be pleased with you." Thus, Ishvarapuri, by the grace of his spiritual master, Sri Madhavendra Puri, became a great devotee in the ocean of love of Godhead. So the seed fructified, it was manifest by Madhavendra Puri, it matured and was passed on to Ishvarapuri, and it is said from that time onward, Ishvarapuri became an ocean of love for Krishna. That section ends, and earlier in the Chaitanya Charitamrita we find that Ishvarapuri was traveling like his spiritual master, traveling to various holy places, and one of those holy places that he went to visit was Navadvip. But before he went to Navadvip, he visited Shantipur, and then we mentioned he had association with Advaita Acharya, and they were of the same ecstatic mood. And so they were very, very happy. They spent many days together. And after some time, as sannyasis will do, he traveled to Navadvip. And when he traveled to Navadvip, he very quickly became an object of attraction for Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit, it's described from his childhood, he was very renounced and an exalted devotee, naturally so. And when meeting this sannyasi, Ishvarapuri, he became very attracted to Ishvarapuri. And so he would spend time serving him and hearing from him. And naturally, Ishvarapuri developed affection for Gadadhar Pandit. And one day, as the two, Gadadhar Pandit and Ishvarapuri, were walking along the bank of the Ganga, they saw off in the distance a whole group of young boys seated around another young boy, and he asked, "Who's that?" "Oh, that's Nimai Pandit." "Oh, I've heard about Nimai Pandit. I'd like to, can you introduce, do you know him?" So they went, and immediately, this is the beginning of a devotional service mood, although he was still in the Leela of being a wrangling speculator, not speculator, argumentative scholar. He immediately touched his lotus feet and immediately invited him, Ishvarapuri, to take his meal at his home. And he went together, made arrangements with Mother Sachi. And so he's, dadati pratigranati goyam akyati prichtati bongte bojayate. So he's serving his guru in this way. He didn't become his guru right away, but he did become his guru. His immediate break from the argumentative Brahmana was not only showing culture, but showing service in devotion to Ishvarapuri. And after some time of their exchanges, Ishvarapuri made a request. I heard you're very skilled. I heard you're very skilled in grammar. I would appreciate some service from you. The service I would appreciate is if you could attend my discussions from the book that I'm writing, and if you find some mistakes, you can correct them. And Nimai said, it's not possible to correct, you don't make mistakes. Here's the words from Chaitanya Bhagavat. Anyone who finds fault with a devotee's description of Krishna as a sinner, if a devotee writes a poem, no matter how poorly he does it, it will certainly contain his love for Krishna. A fool says Vishnaya, while the scholar knows the correct form is Vishnave. But Krishna accepts the sentiment in either case. If anyone sees a fault in this, the fault is his. For Krishna is pleased with anything the pure devotee says. You too describe the Lord with words of love. So, what arrogant person would dare criticize anything you have written? But Ishvarapuri was insistent. No, please, please, please. So it's always a good idea that there's someone that's another pair of eyes that's looking at someone's writing. So he consented, just as service. And so every day, for some period of time, Nimai Pandit would sit and hear Ishvarapuri recite from his writing. His writing was known as Sri Krishna Lilamrita. Sri Krishna Lilamrita. An hour or two every day, discussing topics, Nimai sitting at his feet, hearing, appreciating. It's a lila, but it's the Supreme Lord acting as if he's not the Supreme Lord, or he's not even a devotee, but he's getting the association of one who is. After hearing a verse from Ishvarapuri's book one day, Nimai Pandit sportingly said, the verb in this verse should be parasmai padi instead of atma ne padi. So there's not a lot said about that, but Ishvarapuri said, let me consider. Some days later, he said, the verb that you have not accepted as atmane padi, I have accepted atmane padi. End of discussion. Meaning, Nimai Pandit was very expert at debate. You know the stories. We'll say, he would confront somebody and make a statement and say, please refute my statement. And they were unable to refute his statement. So then after they were unable to refute his statement, he would refute his statement and establish a second statement. Please refute this second statement. They couldn't refute the second statement. So he would refute the second statement and then persuade them to accept the first statement again. And this way, on and on and on. He was just, by Leela, showing that the futility of trying to reach conclusive truth by argument and speculation, argument and reason. He never was defeated. He never was defeated. He never was defeated. But he was defeated because he accepted. He made no objection. And after some time, Ishvarapuri left Navadvip to go to some other holy place. And we don't hear about him again until it came time for Nimai Pandita to visit Gaya for the purpose of performing the Shraddha ceremony for his deceased father. It's the proper a practice for a young Brahmin boy. So there's some details. It's more found in Chaitanya Bhagavat, but in the course of his journey from Navadvip to Gaya, he contracted some disease where there was a very strong fever. They tried doctors and this and that, and nothing worked. And so he said, there's one thing that can cure my fever, and that's water that's washed the feet of a Brahmana, because his students were all Brahmanas. And they had no reservation to give water from their feet because that's what their teacher wanted. And his fever broke quickly. In the Leela, it's another indication of his submission, as he was submitting previously to Ishvarapuri to hear from him, etc., submitting himself to the Brahmanas, taking their mercy in this humble way. So when he reached Gaya, some of you know, has anyone here been to Gaya? No, I haven't either. Could you do me a favor? Could you not sit in the doorway, because people come, and then when people come and someone's sitting in the doorway, they're inconvenienced. Yeah, I hope you don't mind. And that means the people in the front can move forward a little bit, because I'm going to do this again a few times, unless you do it for me, because we've been through this. Anyone was with us last night? Anyway, when he reached Gaya, one of the first things that one who goes to Gaya is recommended to do is to pay respects at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. There's a place where there's an impression. This is an artist depiction, but there's an impression of Vishnu's lotus feet in Gaya. And so he felt great spiritual emotion as the Brahmanas were chanting their mantras. You see his students crowded around. And he was feeling strong devotion to Lord Vishnu, which was not what he was like before. And after seeing the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu comes a number of rituals, going to this temple, that temple, the other temple, with a certain routine. The text says it normally takes several days. He did it in one day. And at the end of that one day, he had done all the rituals. He had fasted for the whole day. And when he returned, then he was ready to break the fast. So he was doing some cooking. And as he was doing some cooking, lo and behold, Ishvarapuri happened to be at Gaya at the same time. When he understood that Nimai Pandita was in Gaya also, he came to visit him. He came right at the time when Nimai Pandita was about to break his fast from having fasted all day. And immediately, with all respect, he petitioned Ishvarapuri, you please accept. No, you've been fasting. You please accept, I'll cook again. And that was another sacrifice, another loving exchange between Nimai and his spiritual master. And in a secluded place, he requested Ishvarapuri to give him mantra Diksha. And you know the story, the pastime. He, Nimai, whispered in his spiritual master's ear the mantra, meaning he initiated Ishvarapuri. This is the mantra that I'd like, so give me this one, please. And then Ishvarapuri gave him that mantra. And as we know, the name that he accepted was Krishna Chaitanya. No, that happened with his sannyasa initiation. So after his Diksha, he lost all interest in scholarship. That's what the painting is meant to illustrate. His writing, the book, is just of no interest to him anymore. And after some days, he just up and started running in the direction of Vrindavan. He wanted to be with Krishna in Vrindavan. You know the pastime. A voice from the sky said, "No, not yet. You appeared in this world to deliver fallen souls. Go back and begin your activities of delivering the fallen souls, chanting the holy name." So what was that voice from the sky anyways? Commentary says it's the demigods. They were eagerly awaiting him to deliver people of this age. So he went back, gathered his students, and from that point on, his mood was altogether different. Altogether different. One of the pastimes we heard in relation to Lord Shiva and Mahaprabhu is when he went back, one of the things that happened is he heard one Brahmana reciting verses in glorification of Lord Shiva, beating on a little din-din drum and dancing around. And Mahaprabhu became ecstatic and got on his shoulders and asked him to dance and carry him around. And after some time, he came to external consciousness. And the Brahmana was very pleased to have Lord Chaitanya on his shoulders, carrying him around. And from that evening onwards, Mahaprabhu requested, "Let us have evening Sankirtan at the house of Srivas Pandit." But that was a byproduct or a result of the unfolding exponentially of his devotional moods. Some time passed. Now, the only other connection with Ishvarapuri that I'm aware of, at least, is it happened in Jagannath Puri. This is after Lord Chaitanya's second initiation, his sannyasa initiation. And when he went as a sannyasi to Puri, his ecstasy before Lord Jagannath, he fainted in the temple in a swoon of ecstasy. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya brought him to his home and wanted to train him in Vedanta Sutra. And in the course of those exchanges with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu revealed to the super scholar Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, just through his scholarship, his divinity. And here we see the painting where Mahaprabhu showed his Sadbhuja form. So from that point on, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and his thousands of renounced followers became great devotees of Lord Chaitanya. And after some time, two of Ishvarapuri's disciples came to Puri. And they said that our Guru Maharaj Ishvarapuri, before he left this world, he instructed us to come here to Puri and to serve you. And he said, "How's that possible? How can I accept service from a godbrother?" So he turned to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and said, "What do I do? I'm in conflict here. It's not etiquette." And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya confirmed, "Yes, it's right. It's not etiquette. However, the order of the spiritual master is very strong, and the order of the spiritual master supersedes that etiquette, and so you should accept. And so this is the final interaction with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ishvarapuri, that Kashishwara Pandit and Govinda became very, very close associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, assisting him and serving him during his stay in Jagannath Puri. And I came across this murti of Ishvarapuri. I don't know any of the history behind it, but it's just said that this deity of Ishvarapuri is the worshipable deity or presiding deity in a particular temple in Halisahara, West Bengal. I don't know where that place is either, but there's the murti of Ishvarapuri. So that's his first of two initiations. And now we're going to spend some time on the second of his two initiations, and that's his accepting of sannyas. And you know the circumstance. The circumstance of his accepting sannyas is after he came back from Gaya, after his Diksha, he was a super bhakta. Before he was a super scholar, and now he's a super bhakta. So much interested in devotion that it was difficult for him to continue with his grammar teaching. So he started with petitioning, no, continue being our teacher. So he taught everything in relation, all the rules of grammar in relation to names of Hari. This we mentioned yesterday, you remember, in relation to Jiva Goswami. Hari Nam Namrita Vyakarana was Jiva Goswami's book, just following what Lord Chaitanya did. That is, rules and rules and rules and rules. I don't know the detail because I've not studied Sanskrit, but I know those that have. I remember one time Garuda, Prabhupada disciple Garuda, was doing his PhD in Sanskrit at Harvard University. And I was in Boston at the time. And, you know, he did a little demonstration of how he had to learn rules. And it's like catechism. It's like rule after rule after rule after rule after rule. But so Lord Chaitanya didn't like that. So he just did all the rules in terms of names of Krishna. Names of Krishna, names of Krishna, names of Krishna. And his students they thought he went mad. And not only thought he went mad, but they began to criticize him. And they began to criticize him even in particular when in the mood of separation from Krishna, he was crying out different messages. And they started criticizing, you're supposed to be teaching Vedanta Sutra and teaching us grammar. What are you doing? So that was the trigger for him to make the decision. These people are, you know, the only way that these people that are fault finders can become at least potentially respectful is if I take sannyas, because culture, at least at that time, to a degree still, culture at least at that time, was respect would go to the sannyasi. So he began to contemplate accepting sannyas. There were obstacles, as there's always obstacles. One of those big obstacles was his mother and his dear wife. And this was his second wife, because his first wife, Lakshmi Priya, died in a time when he was absent from home. She died in separation. So the arrangement was made by Buddhimanta Khan for him to marry a second time, Lakshmi Priya. So young woman, probably quite young, and endowed with good qualities, etc., etc. What to speak about the Sachi who had lost a number of children, and another who had taken sannyas. So, according to Chaitanya Bhagavat, he informed Mother Sachi. She could see his mood. She's his mother, so she understood his mood. And he disclosed his plan. and she knew it was imminent. And sure enough, he left home. He left home. It was a nice story. He left home on the evening that Haridas Thakur brought from his little residence, I guess you call residence, his little thatched hut, where there were gourds that would grow, and he brought one for Lord Chaitanya to offer. He had Mother Sachi cook it with milk. He took that meal, and in the dead of night, it says 2 hours before sunrise, he snuck out the front door. Now, it's described that she knew. In her heart, she knew. So she was at the door. She was on the little porch, and she was crying and crying and crying. And he tried to pacify her, and he left. The next morning when the sun came up, persons came to see Nimai. They didn't see Nimai, they saw Mother Sachi sitting on the porch, weeping and crying. And she said, whatever is the paraphernalia here, you can take it all and do with it whatever you wish, and went on crying. So they understood. So that there's this wave of sadness, etc., being described. And then he went, it was a plan that he went to Katwa. It's a very nice place, very simple place. And it turns out Katwa is also the place where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami hailed from his childhood. It's a simple place. And he had decided that he wanted to take sannyasa initiation from Keshava Bharati. As was the practice at the time, there's something, I forget the number, 10 names amongst the sannyasis from Shankaracharya's line. Puri was one, and Bharati is another. So he wanted to take Diksha from Keshava Bharati, who at that time had an ashram in Katwa. So with 4 associates, he went. Chandrasekhar Acharya was going to do the rituals. And Gadadhar Pandit, Mukunda Datta, and who was the other one? Lord Nityananda. So the 4 went. There's some wonderful paintings. Here's a description from Gauragunadesh Dipika, who is Keshava Bharati. It's 2 different references in 2 different sections of the book. Sandipani Muni, who formerly offered the sacred thread to Krishna and Balaram, later became Keshava Bharati. According to some authoritative opinions, Keshava Bharati is an incarnation of Akrura. There are much different sections of Gauragunadesh Dipika. It's directly quoting Srila Prabhupada from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So what a scene. There's Mahaprabhu, there's Keshava Bharati, and there's all the devotees going mad, knowing that when he takes sannyas, they're going to not have his association again, because he's going to leave. So it is details and details and details. One of the nice details is the barber. The barber had a nice name. His name was Madhu. Madhu the barber. And he was given the assignment of cutting his hair. And those of you that have read Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's like, his hair must have been really elegant or something, because it mentions it over and over again, and Madhu couldn't do it. He was barber by profession, he couldn't cut his hair. And as he was cutting his hair, he was weeping, his hands were trembling. It took him almost the whole day to cut his hair. And there's the indication of Madhu the barber with his hair falling on the ground, crying and crying. When you go to Katwa, you can see this is the tree under which he did the cutting of his hair. They have a whole big thing about that underneath this tree. They have, the barber has a samadhi. His hair has a samadhi. And there's nice painting of his giving of the mantra and his facing sannyas clothing by Keshava Bharati, showing, the marks of tilak he has. There's not Vaishnav tilak. And he gives him his danda and kamandalu. And there's a big scene, a hue and cry of everyone all in disbelief. What's going on? Those of you that have been, you'll recognize this very powerful deity. In my experience, I've been there a few times. Very tall deity, and it's a very powerful deity. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And of course, Jagannath by one side, and it looks like Krishna holding a flute, only his complexion is whitish, but no flute. So I don't know the story. Does anybody know the story behind this deity? I don't know the story. I'll see if I can find out. And so for tomorrow. From there, he had planned, after sannyas, to go to Vrindavan, be with Krishna in Vrindavan. And Lord Nityananda tricked him as he was wandering this way, that way, in his state of madness. Lord Nityananda said, Vrindavan is that away. And it was the direction of Shantipur. So he went to Shantipur and he was like upset. Hey, you said Vrindavan is that away, but you brought me to Shantipur. So there he is in Shantipur, speaking to all of his devotees who are going to miss him like anything. Part of the arrangement was so that Mother Sachi could see him again and cook for him for some number of days. And there's a detail that's not found in too many places, but it must have happened because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave his shoes to Vishnupriya. There's Mother Sachi sitting on the doorstep of a little cottage. And these very same shoes are today being worshipped in Navadvip town. Some of you have been there. You know the shoes. And now they're, silver plated and so forth. And here's the shoes in front of the deity that was also given to Vishnupriya. And for the rest of her life, the second wife of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu worshipped this deity of Gauranga. And it is said that she emerged into the body of the deity at the end of her life. And look closely, you can see there's a nose ring. Yes? The nose ring of Vishnupriya and the deity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this photograph, by the way, is about 10 days old. One devotee, because a lot of devotees were in Mayapur for the festival. And it turns out that several days of the week, they dress the deity as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and several days of the week, like this particular day, they dress Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in a sari, acknowledging that Vishnupriya merged into the deity's body, and with a nice nose ring at the center. So that's a brief description of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's two initiations, Ishvarapuri and Keshava Bharati. So as we get closer, I'm sure you'll be doing this. I plan to do this from here. I'm going to be going to Phoenix. Spring is already starting to happen here, and there it's already summer. But I'll be there for Gaur Purnima and every evening between now and then. Tomorrow, I have a commitment for a group of young people that are studying Bhagavad Gita together. So they want me to do a 1 hour summary of chapter 9 Bhagavad Gita. So that's what I'm doing tomorrow night. But I encourage you all get together and discuss or read or something. Prepare yourselves for Lord Chaitanya's appearance. There's so much and so sweet, so rich. And details. Very nice. So let's see if there's some discussion. Can you see the screen from way over there? You can say where you are if you can see it. Are you looking at your phone, or you can see this screen here? Discussion, anyone?
Maharaj, what is the reason Mahaprabhu took the initiation from Keshav Bharati? He's not that Vaishnava line, right, Maharaj?
That's not from the Vaishnava line. Well, there are probably some esoteric reasons, but just as far as convention is concerned, that was the common convention. Sannyasa was respected as having come from the Shankara Sampradaya. Many, including in Lord Chaitanya, in Madhva's line. So it was a common practice, so that it would be an external reason at least is so that it would be respected. Because it's an important step, and an important step needs to be respected by people who, may criticize. People do criticize sometimes, right? So that it be respected in the world. If there's some esoteric reason or internal reason, I don't know. Anybody in the room have an idea about this? Shyam, you heard anything on this?
Because he was Mayavadi, Chakrama who wanted to take initiation from his followers. Opportunity to take the initiation. I don't know how far that is true.
I'm not sure I get it. He wasn't? He wasn't a Mayavadi.
He was a Mayavadi.
He was.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took initiation from Keshav Bharati, his intention was to give, instead of taking mercy, his intention was to give mercy to Keshav Bharati and all his followers. And
by his giving the mantra, he actually became a Vaishnava.
yes,
That's the idea?
exactly.
And his followers similarly became a Vaishnava.
Exactly.
So he was, doing a backdoor, make them all Vaishnavas. Interesting. You heard that? Did you find it written somewhere, or you've just heard it? See if you can find it. See if you can find it. And by the way, I couldn't find those two presentations on parenting.
But I have one other question, if you don't mind, Maharaj.
I don't mind.
So, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to take sannyas, he took sannyas even though Ishvarapuri was on the planet at that time. So wasn't it etiquette to take his sannyas from Ishvarapuri? This fact I could not find as to why he didn't take from Ishvarapuri. Of course,
You're
I
asking
found,
a similar question. Not the same, but similar.
okay.
Yes, Ishwarapuri was on the planet. And it never occurred to me. Why? So maybe it was this other reason that you suggested. He wanted to, bring a whole pack of sannyasis to Mayavadi sannyasis to Vaishnavism. So it's not, in terms of Vedic culture at that time, such a thing was not disrespectful to receive mantra, sannyas mantra from something other than one's guru, because it's receiving of a mantra. And it's a detail, but he was proximate. Katwa was very proximate to Navadvip. Nice question. I never thought of that. It's a natural thought. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. My question is about the sannyas initiation.
I'm going to ponder on this. I'm going to see if I can find. Maybe there's some devotees. Maybe there's some devotees in Mayapur that have been, immersed in Gora Lila, and they have the answer to a question like that. I know who I'll ask. Varsana Maharaj. He'll probably have an answer. So if I'll write to him, and if I get an answer, I'll get something back, and whatever I get back, I'll let you know what he sends back. Radhanath Maharaj may also know, because they both love Gora Lila. I'll ask those two, and if I get an answer of anything, besides I don't know either. She's got the microphone, then you're next. Go ahead.
When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu received initiation from Ishvarapuri,
Yeah.
he recited the mantra and then Ishvarapuripad recited it back to Chaitanya
Yes.
Mahaprabhu.
Yes, that's it.
When he got the initiation from Keshava Bharati Maharaj, was a similar format.
No indication.
No indication.
That it was similar.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
What's that? Her question is, as with Ishwarapuri, he spoke the mantra at Ishwarapuri, who then spoke it back. Did the same thing happen with Keshava Bharati? Did he speak the mantra and he gave it back? And I don't know. Are you saying you know? But it's okay. But there's sannyas mantra. There's a sannyas mantra. And there's sannyas mantra, by the way, is in Hari Bhakti Vilas. So that's later when that Hari Bhakti Vilas was compiled. But there's a Vaishnava sannyas mantra. It's a Vaishnava sannyas mantra. And the principle of sannyas, my questioning on this stopped at, it was just pretty simple. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, wanted the world to respect the sannyas that he had taken, and so it was then done in a way that the world then respected. You also read like that?
That was being respected. It was very strong.
Very strong. Prabhupada writes up on this in Chaitanya Charitamrita, not at length, but he lists the 10 different names, and so he accepted sannyas in one of those 10 different names, he chose the Bharati name because so it would be respected. And it, and it's part of the reason that he showed in his childhood pastimes or youth pastimes that such strong scholarship, because people would say, "Oh, you Vaishnavas, you're weak-minded. You're doing this because you don't have the capacity to do strong stuff, scholarship stuff. So you just do the weak-minded." Paramatma, you have something?
The deity of
Prabhupada, excuse me.
Ishvarapuri was
What's that?
the deity of Ishvarapuri
Yeah.
that we saw was dressed in white. So I'm wondering, Ishvarapuri was a householder, and maybe that you take sannyas from a sannyasi, and so that's why Lord Chaitanya took sannyas from a Keshava Bharati, the sannyasi. I don't
No.
know. That's not right.
That's not right.
Okay.
I mean, how the artist painted him is how the artist painted him, but he was a renunciate. Puri, he was a Puri. Means he also received sannyas by that same method from the Shankara line of one of those names, because that was the respected procedure, and that's what he did. That sannyas was respected. But it doesn't answer the question. He could have, huh? Yeah.
So it is because of that period. In that period, it was being considered as it is very strong.
Yes.
Because it's like
Yes.
Krishna.
Yes. Yes.
So people accepted that to be strong in that period. Maybe now we have a Vaishnava
Sangha.
community, Sangha, and all. Maybe at that time it was commonly given by that language.
Yes. Prabhupada writes what she's saying in Chaitanya Charitamrita purport. Okay. So I encourage you, at least in the evenings, get together, or however you want to do it, within your family or something. Just get ready by hearing Gaura Katha. And it's a nice way to prepare oneself for Lord Chaitanya's appearance. It's next to Krishna Janmashtami, which no one misses. It's our most important festival in the whole year, in our ISKCON line and the Gaudiya line, certainly. So in anticipation, hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing, very nice to do. Okay, thank you very much, Prabhupada Ki.